The air in the Grand Convocation Chamber held a scent reminiscent of ozone and cold metal, a sterile perfume for the most powerful beings in the Milky Way. Ambassador Kulthar of the Xylith Collective adjusted the translator note on his carapace, a gesture of pure anxiety. Before the semicircle of the Galactic Council's high seats, a single, holoprojected image hung, a swirling blue and white marble, dotted with faint, messy clusters of light. The dossier is before you, esteemed council. Kulthar's voice clicked and buzzed through the universal translators. Planet designation, Sol 3. Local name, Earth. Species, Homo sapiens sapiens. A Class 5 death world. Category, extreme volatility. Murmurs, like the rustle of scales and the hum of energy fields, filled the chamber. A death world was concerning enough. A Class 5 was virtually unheard of outside of myth. Their atmosphere is corrosive, their gravity erratic due to an oversized moon, their tectonic plates are in constant, violent flux, and their biosphere is a festival of toxins and predation. Kulthar continued, but that is not the primary concern. The primary concern is them. The hologram zoomed in, chaotic, sprawling nests of concrete and metal, images of humans, soft, pink, hairless in places, furred in others, no natural armor, no venom sacs, claws that were laughably blunt. They are physically unremarkable, fragile, even, but their psychology, it is an aberration. Our long-range socioscans reveal a species governed not by logic or hive harmony, but by a cacophony of contradictory impulses they call emotions. They feel rage, joy, despair, and a terrifyingly potent obsession they term curiosity. This curiosity is not a drive for knowledge for stability, but a compulsion to touch, to test, to break things to see how they work. They have split the atom not for energy, but to make weapons. They have pierced their own atmosphere not for exploration, but to plant flags and claim rocks. The Grolth Patriarch, a being of crystalline intelligence, shimmered with disdain. So they are chaotic children. A quarantine protocol is sufficient. Why summon a full council? Kulthar's mandibles quivered, because they are not staying on their rock, they are leaking into the Orion Arm. Their earliest sublight probes carried golden discs with maps to their homeworld and recordings of their biological sounds and music. Maps to their homeworld. It was an invitation to any predator in the void. A wave of horrified clicks and gasps. Such insanity was inconceivable. Worse, Kulthar continued, pulling up new data. They have discovered rudimentary hyperfield theory. Their equations are crude, brutal, like smashing rocks together to make sparks, but they work. They are on the cusp of stumbling into the wider galaxy, and they will do so not with cautious probes, but with generational ships fueled by stubbornness and songs. They will bring their chaos, their emotions, their inexplicable need to fight gravity, fight disease, fight each other, and then make peace over shared intoxicants. They are an ontological virus. The military advisor for the Trellian hegemony, a being of pure strategic calculus, spoke next. My analysis concurs. Their historical data is the most compelling evidence. In less than 100 of their planetary orbits, they progressed from hurling rocks to thermonuclear annihilation. They teeter on self-extinction constantly, only to pull back at the last moment, not out of wisdom, but out of a bizarre sentimentality for their own fleeting lives. They venerate individuals who voluntarily sacrifice themselves for the group, a concept our psychologists cannot parse. They are unpredictable, uncontainable, a spark next to the galactic powder keg of our delicate, millennia-old peace. The conclusion was grim, unanimous. The Galactic Council, for the first time in 10,000 cycles, enacted a genocide protocol, not out of malice, but out of a profound, sterilizing logic. Earth was a cancer. It had to be excised before it metastasized. The Trellian Armada, a silent fleet of sleek, organic-looking vessels capable of sterilizing a world from orbit in moments, was dispatched. They arrived at the edge of the Sol system, their weapons powering up. The plan was clean, clinical, a single, sustained particle lance into the planetary core, inducing a catastrophic geological collapse. Quick, painless for the galaxy, if not for the humans. They expected silence. They expected ignorance. They expected a soft, blue world, asleep in its deadly cradle. What they did not expect was the crackle of a primitive radio transmission on 1,000 different frequencies, blaring from the planet and its orbiting debris. It was not a plea. It was not a declaration of war in any logical language. It was sound, rhythmic, chaotic, layered, A bombardment of what their AIs cross-referenced and identified as rock and roll, classical symphonies, folk ballads, and rap. It was a wall of defiant, undulating noise. Then the visual signals started, not of weapons, but of art. Sistine chapels and spray-painted walls, films of heroes rising against impossible odds, dancing, feasting, weeping. The Trellian commander, Vorlath, was baffled. It was a data spasm, a death rattle of a deranged mind. He gave the order, target the planetary core, fire in 10 microcycles. That's when the other signals were detected, not from Earth, from its moon, from a rusted, silent hulk of early human engineering, left as a monument. Its power systems, dead for centuries, suddenly flared with impossible energy. A single, tight-beam microwave transmission, carrying not a message, but a concept, lanced into the Trellian command ship's navigation core. It was the schematic for a software patch, a patch for a forgotten, ancient operating system called Windows. It was a virus, but not one that destroyed. It simply asked a question, a single, recursive, illogical question that crashed the entire fleet's targeting systems by demanding they agree to update terms and conditions they could not comprehend. Chaos erupted on the Trellian bridges. Alarms blared in harmony with Chuck Berry's Johnny B. Good. Then, the human's own orbital debris field moved, not with grace, but with a violent, chemical-propelled desperation. Derelict satellites, old rocket stages, even a discarded wrench tracked by an ancient space telescope, all fitted with crude, hastily attached solid fuel boosters and shape-charge warheads. It was a cloud of shrapnel, fired not with precision, but with sheer volume, turning local space into a killing zone of kinetic impacts. A Trellian cruiser shuddered as a decades-old communications satellite, painted with a faded cartoon logo, embedded itself in its hull and detonated. They are attacking, with garbage? Vorlath hissed. But the true shock was yet to come. From the dark side of Earth, a single, slender vessel emerged. It was a patchwork of different alloys, scorched and repaired, its design a blasphemy against elegant Trellian bioengineering. Its engines glowed with the unstable fury of a contained explosion. It didn't hail them, it broadcast to them, on all frequencies, the voice of its pilot, the translation software strained. Unidentified vessels, the voice said, young, female, crackling with static and something else, not fear, but a vibrant, terrifying intensity. This is Major Anya Petrova of the International Space Defense Directorate, on board the UNSS Improbable. You are in unauthorized space near a protected human world. Stand down and identify yourselves. Protected? Protected? The arrogance was staggering. Vorlath, his systems rebooting, opened a channel. Primitive. You face the Trellian hegemony. Your world is sentenced to sterility. Your resistance is illogical. Surrender and you will be studied. There was a pause. Then, not from the ship, but from 1,000 different transmitters on the planet below, a sound came. A sound the translators refused to soften. It was laughter. Petrova's voice came back, the terrifying vibrancy now edged with that laughter. Yeah, we get that a lot. The illogical thing. See, you made a mistake. You scanned our wars, our bombs, our chaos. You saw the danger, but you didn't scan the why. The why is irrelevant, Vorlath stated. The why is everything, Petrova shot back. You saw we build weapons. You didn't see we build them hoping never to use them. You saw we fight each other. You didn't see we fight for each other, for ideas, for a sunset, for a stupid song that gets stuck in our heads. You call this a death world? Buddy, this is home. We earned this gravity, we tamed these toxins, we dance on these fault lines, and you think you can scare us? With logic? The Improbable's engines flared. It didn't retreat, it accelerated, towards the flagship. You are insane, Vorlath declared, a biological imperative he'd never felt before, panic creeping into his voice. Damn right we are, Petrova whooped, the sound of raw human joy echoing in the void. It's how we survived. Now, let me show you what else insanity can build. The Improbable didn't fire a laser. It released a canister that, when hit by a Trellian point defense laser, burst not into plasma, but into a cloud of fine, reflective powder, stardust mixed with carbon nanotubes. It coated the flagship's sensors, rendering it blind. And in that blindness, the Improbable, small and nimble and insane, latched onto the hull like a barnacle. Petrova, in a pressurized suit, manually welded a small device to the outer hull, a data spike. It contained every human tragedy and triumph, every symphony and scream, the complete works of Shakespeare, the theory of relativity, the recipe for chocolate chip cookies, and a malicious, self-replicating code based on a human childhood game called Tetris that would slowly and irrevocably reorganize the flagship's central computer into neat, useless blocks. The Trellian Armada retreated, not in defeat, but in profound, culture-shocking disarray. They had come to erase an anomaly. They had been greeted by a phenomenon. Back in the Grand Convocation Chamber, the report played. The council sat in a silence more profound than the vacuum of space. The hologram now showed the blue marble, serene, wreathed in its defiant cloud of orbital junk, with a single, patched-up ship doing a slow, victorious roll over its terminator line. Ambassador Kulthar finally broke the silence, his voice a whisper of shattered certainty. We miscategorized them. The Grolth Patriarch's crystals had dimmed. Clearly, they are not a Class 5 Death World species. The military advisor's strategic calculus was producing error messages. They are something else entirely. A Class 1 paradox. A species whose primary survival trait is the uncontrollable, unpredictable generation of meaning, of stories, of will. Kulthar looked at the image of the tiny ship, of the planet behind it, pulsing with chaotic, beautiful radio noise. The protocol, the genocide protocol, he stammered, is hereby suspended. The council elder thrummed, a note of something akin to awe in its ancient voice. You do not excise a paradox. You do not sterilize a story. You quarantine it. You study it, from a very, very safe distance. The motion passed, unanimously. And across the galaxy, a new directive was quietly added to all navigational charts, all first contact manuals, all strategic doctrines. Next to the designation Sol 3, next to the species name human, was a single, stark warning, printed in the glyphs of 100 species. Approach with extreme caution. Do not attack. Do not threaten their home. They are not insane. They are human. And they will make it your problem.